Hey y'all, it's me, Kim. Hi, how are you doing? I'm good. Thank you for asking. Shout out to Janet. So obviously this video is going to be about Kamala Harris again. So if you watched my last video on Kamala, then you should know, hopefully if you made it to the end, which most of you did not, you should know that I am not on Team Kamala. I have huge reservations about her as a candidate. But one thing that I was not expecting was all of the people pushing back and saying that she is not black. Okay, that was a surprise. That was a surprise. And so many people commented telling me that she is not black that I had to take a step back and say, whoa, what am I missing here? Like, why do so many people believe this? So, in order to get to the bottom of it, I did what I often do, which is research. I went on a quest to see what Kamala's identity actually is. Kamala is very forthright with her biography. She has an Indian mother and a Jamaican father, but so many people have said that her father, Donald Harris, is not the black kind of Jamaican. So I wanted to know for myself. I did some research on Donald, who is a Jamaican immigrant. He came here in 1961, and he was a retired professor of economics at Stanford, and I found some video of him from way back. I found this video of him from 1989 at an economics conference. So let's take a look.
The thing to me about the so-called debt crisis is the striking amount of public attention it has received. Judging, for instance, from the amount of newsprint and other coverage by the media that has been devoted to it, I would say it ranks second only to the coverage given to Glasnost, Perestroika, and Gorbachev.
Now, are y'all really gonna tell me that that man is not black? For real? Now, he could be multiracial in some way. That's certainly a possibility. Or he could be multiracial in the way that a lot of slave-descended people are multiracial. I really do not know. But the argument that that man has no black blood, no, sorry, I have eyes, thank you. No. And it's weird to see that argument coming from people who either like have a complexion that looks like Donald's or a complexion that is like a little bit lighter than Donald's, or who have partners that look like Donald. Like, come on now. Like, what are y'all doing? What are y'all really doing? We can have questions, but let's root those questions in facts. Then I found this essay from Donald, retired economics professor, called Reflections of a Jamaican Father. Now, I do wonder what would prompt him to write that, right? Certainly, he or somebody has tipped him off to the questions about his background and his ancestry, because it's a little interesting. But anyways, Donald says in this essay that the two most important people in his life are his grandmothers. One's name is Miss Chrissy. Well, of course, these people are deceased now because Donald is like in his late 80s. But anyways, Miss Chrissy and Miss Iris. He says that Miss Chrissy was a descendant of Hamilton Brown, who was a slave owner who founded a little township in St. Anne's, Jamaica. And honestly, like, that's not surprising. Like, we know about the transatlantic slave trade and all of that. And honestly, my last name is Foster. Okay, there's some white slave owners in my family tree. So that's not weird or strange to me at all. But he also had some pictures. So here is a picture of Miss Chrissy. Black as hell. Here is his other grandma, Miss Iris, holding a young Kamala. Interestingly, we don't have pictures of his grandfathers. I wonder why that is. And I also wasn't able to find pictures on the internet of Kamala's grandparents, his parents, which I also thought was interesting. But by looking at Donald and looking at his grandmothers, that's enough for me to say this man is black. And he also talks about in that essay being discriminated against because people perceived him as being just another Negro from the islands. And are just not going to be able to convince me that a man who looked like that, who immigrated from Jamaica to the United States in 1961, has not had a substantively black experience. I'm just not gonna, that's just not something that I am going to debate, but you can do what you want to do. Now, a black immigrant experience is of course different from a black American experience, but they're still Black experiences. Let's move on to Kamala. Here she is with her younger sister, and they are out here looking as mixed as can be. They're just happy, biracial children. I've called Kamala mixed, biracial, and black. Black and something else. Now, why would I do that? Because she's called herself black. Y'all know I do research, so I went back and read her book, and pretty early on, she describes herself as a black woman and says that that's how she was raised to view herself. My mother understood very well that she was raising two black daughters. She knew that her adopted homeland would see Maya and me as black girls, and she was determined to make sure we would grow up into confident, proud black women. So in Kamala's case, I think that you can be all of the above, mixed, black, black and biracial, because of her age. Kamala Harris was born in 1964, and biracial identity, mixed identity means something different in 1964 than it does in 2019, in part because there are so many more mixed people. According to the Pew Research Center, in 2018, mixed people under the age of 18 made up 43% of the multiracial people in the United States. Back in 1970, mixed births were like 1 in 100, and now there's like 1 in 10 births in the United States is a multiracial birth. We can think of mixed identity or multiracial identity differently now in 2019 because now miscegenation is the move. And now that they've got their numbers up, mixed race people are asserting their identities in a much different way. You know, they're saying disaggregate the data. Like, we're not just gonna be in this category, we're in the mixed category. And that, I guess, is useful for them politically and socially. But that is a pretty new development. Here is what Pew said about that. In the 1960 census, enumerators were told that people they counted who were both white and any other race should be categorized in the minority race. People of multiracial non-white backgrounds were categorized according to their father's race. The way that we even think about multiracial identity is super interesting. In the United States, the census didn't even have a multiracial identity marker until 2000. Now, why am I talking about the census? Because race is a social construction. Your racial identity is about your heritage, how you're viewed and treated in the world, and also about how you personally identify. So I'm okay calling Kamala black and because of history, because of her age, because I recognize that things have shifted very quickly. New rules are appropriate for where we are now, right? So I'm not gonna look at a Northwest the way that I look at a Kamala Harris. But I don't think it's appropriate to go back and try to retroactively impose that stuff, you know? If this woman has spent almost 55 years saying she's black, being accepted as black in black spaces, being treated like a black person, then I feel like that genie is out of the bottle, right? You can't put the genie back in the bottle. Frankly, I don't think that Kamala went to Howard in the 80s and joined a black women's sorority because she was trying to bamboozle us 40 years later about her racial identity. I just don't believe it. However, it is 2019, this is the time that her presidential campaign is happening, and multiraciality does matter. Mixedness does matter because she is able to invoke both sides of her heritage whenever she wants to. I read this study about how biracial people, mixed race people can play up their blackness in certain social situations in order to fit in. And I do think that there is some resentment among regular black folks like me. And by the way, regular black folks is not a pejorative. I think it's quite popping to be the norm. But I think that some of us do feel some resentment because we can't pull out any exotic markers of our identity. We're black all the time. That fluidity gives Kamala lots of wiggle room. The fact that you get to avoid a question about what are you, how do you describe yourself, means that our blackness is not the same. I absolutely think that throughout her presidential campaign, Kamala Harris is going to try to have her cake and eat it too when it comes to her race. And people are right to be skeptical of that because we already got a dose of that with Barack Obama, and it does come off a little, it comes off sketchy. I can side-eye the way that she's going to try to, hopscotch around race in this campaign and stick her toe in and take it out when it's convenient for her, and also acknowledge that she has experienced anti-blackness as a mixed race black woman in this country, because we are all socialized into the one drop rule, you know, and our race is not just about what happens at this very moment, it's also about what happens in all the moments that preceded this one. And by the way, I just have to say that I think that this particular conversation about Kamala's race is very much an online conversation, and like a particular kind of online, and that's okay, right? Like we have our thing here and we can have these conversations, but the idea that everybody is questioning Kamala's blackness, I don't know about that. And I've been really weirded out and put off by the ways that people have talked about Kamala and her racial identity and her ethnicity and Jamaica and all of that stuff. Now look, I am not a nationalist in any sense of the word, not in any aspect of my identity or my life. I love black folks. I think that black people should have stuff for themselves, and communities get to have stuff for themselves and congregate and protect their stuff and congregate together. But one of the reasons why I reject nationalism in any form is because it inspires bad habits. Chief among them is an obsession with borders and boundaries, and that is a whole nother video, but I'm gonna say this. You can be proud of your identity, want to protect your identity and what you've built, without going full on xenophobe. It is weird as hell to me to see black folks be on some true blue Donald Trump birther shit. How are you really gonna be xenophobic during Black History Month? Because to do that, that means you have to discount all kinds of black people who are either not born in the United States or have parents who are not born in the United States. Marcus Garvey, Biggie, Basquiat, Shirley Chisholm, Stokely Carmichael, like so many. Like, do y'all know your history for real? Or are you just pretending to know your history? Because, you know, the way people be talking, I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know. Well, that's all I have to say about that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Up on the Patreon right now is a bonus video of me talking about why I do judge people who sleep with people who are married or in relationships. Yep, I do judge. Close your legs to married men. That's over there. It's of course patrons only. Become a Patreon patron to be able to watch all of that content. Send me an email, leave a comment, grab some merch, sign up for the email newsletter. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Bye.